fresh like Impala, fresh herbs, Herbert Lui, man. Thank you so much for being here, bro.
My pleasure, dude.
Right off the bat.
What an intro.
I had
Great
to do
intro.
it, man. We have a gift for you, and this is a special gift.
Man.
So this segment of the show is known as Nardwuar the Human Serviette.
Yes.
And this is the most Nardwuar gift I've ever given a guest thus far. Ready for it?
Yeah.
You asked me.
That's what's in the box.
What's in the box? What's
Oh,
in the
jeez.
box? Here it is, bro.
I thought you had an Amazon delivery.
Boom.
Oh, jeez.
I had to get it for you, bro. This
I
right
get
over
to keep
here.
that?
That's
That's
yours,
awesome,
man.
dude.
Absolutely. The least
Oh,
we could
man.
do. This is
That is
just a
unbelievable.
12-inch press of Power by Kanye West,
my
man.
goodness.
So that for you, that is for you, sir.
We would start things off here.
Oh, we have to. We have to start it off like this because
Yeah.
we bonded when we
That's
first
awesome,
met
dude.
several years ago
Yeah,
over
through
Mr.
Sean.
West.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What has been the impact of Kanye West on Herbert Louis' career?
Oh, jeez. Career, life, like what can we
Let's start
say?
it all. The world according to
Jeez.
Kanye. You
Oh,
are the author,
man.
the collector, the curator of the book, which
Yeah.
now rests on my desk that I read every single day.
You're kidding.
I'm not even kidding,
Not
bro.
every day.
Every single day I walk in, it's
Jeez.
on my desk. I flip it. I'm like, what did Kanye say today? What did
That's
Kanye say
trippy,
about
man.
today?
That's awesome.
What's been the impact, man? Like, and let's take it all the way back because when you were 14, if I'm doing my math correctly, this is when graduation just dropped. No, hold on. This is
Yeah.
when late registration or graduation just dropped when you were
I think it was
14.
grad, yeah.
What was it like, man? Walk me through what 14-year-old Herbert was doing.
14-year-old Herbert just started like high school.
Mm-hmm.
Was super like confused and lost, not like existentially, but just like where is this all going? Like what's the point of this? And like and also just like identity crisis, right? It's like, oh, here's what it's like to be cool, but that's not really me. So like where
do I fit
who
in?
am I? Right? And like you know, kind of awkward, like trying to fit in, not really trying to stand out, just trying to like do homework and stuff. Make
Get
my
by.
parents happy.
Back to Greg, though, real quick. So
Back
shout
to
out to Greg
Greg.
for putting you
Yeah.
onto vinyl.
Yeah, so Greg got me this vinyl player for my birthday.
Yeah.
And so I love vinyls. But if we're taking it back to what we were talking about before.
Herbert in high school, man.
Herbert in high school, in grade 9 particularly, was a
Unsure,
lost year.
confused, yeah.
I was just like so confused. And Kanye was like, he just made good music. That's it.
No pun intended, man.
Yeah. You go on my iTunes and I was like, you know, like Facebook, like how, who's your favorite artist? And stuff. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I go into my iTunes and I see my most played and it's like Kanye.
Kanye
I was
top
like,
to
I
bottom.
guess Kanye's my favorite artist.
Kanye was also really confusing at that time, too, because he emerged during, I would say, the golden era of gangster rap.
Yeah.
I mean, 50 Cent was dominating the charts at this
Yeah.
point. It was really tough for me personally
That's
to
how we
form my
opened this.
identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going through high school, not being part of any gang, not being part of any organization, any group of people
Yeah.
that identified with the lifestyle that would have been reflected in 50s music.
Yeah.
At the same time, I wasn't a hyper nerd either, and I wasn't into
Yeah.
other forms of music. I was looking for that middle ground, and it was so weird for me to see Kanye with his pink polo and his backpack, just smiling ear to ear, and I was like, well, who is this guy? He's making, like you said, good music. And then do you remember when they had that face-off, 50 Cent and Kanye
Yeah,
West?
that was graduation.
That was graduation.
And I don't remember 50's album.
That was a huge moment. I think that album was called A Massacre or something? Valentine's Day Massacre? I can't even remember.
Massacre.
Or
The
Before
one-
I Self-Destruct?
Yeah, that's the one. Before I Self-Destruct.
Before I
was the
Self-Destruct.
one.
Dude, I
Yeah.
don't remember. I remember two
Yeah.
songs
the
off
Massacre,
it.
Yeah, right.
So when you think back to Kanye West, you eventually transitioned, and what did you study in university again, man? I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. I barely remember. Like my first year, I studied media,
Yeah.
and then my second, third, and fourth, I was in a business program.
So
It was
interesting.
a weird program though. It was like a social science, management, organizational studies is what they called it, but it's not a BBA.
It's not a BBA. So you were more focused on the arts, essentially.
Yeah, it was like very like my stream. I switched into my fourth year. My stream was called consumer behavior, and it was like psychology and like marketing and like stuff like that. Yeah.
Would you say that Kanye gave you some permission to become a creative?
You know what?
Asking you just bluntly, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's not even permission to be creative. It's like permission to be yourself. Like it's like there's that saying, right? Like he said it, so I mean whatever. But it's like if you're a fan of Kanye West, you're not a fan of me. You're a fan of yourself.
You're a fan of yourself, exactly.
And I'm like, whoa, like what's going on, right? Like that makes no sense. But I'm like, you know what? That's actually so true when you think about it, because it's like you know, it gives you for someone who's not confident in themselves, Kanye gives you like endless self-confidence.
100%.
You're like, you know, if you're rapping it out, right? You actually say those words and then you say it to yourself and you're like, whoa. Right? And you feel really good after listening to his music. There's some psychology to that.
Dude,
for sure.
I couldn't agree more, which is why we selected Power for this. The other option that we were going to get you was I'm a God from Yeezus.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing, really misunderstood songs, because people are like, oh my God, this is Kanye's ego. Look at him talking about himself. But to your point, he's talking about the person that he's trying to become. Yeah. It's all aspirational. Because when you reverse engineer his career and take it back, here was a guy who was sitting in his basement, in his mom's basement no less, 5 beats a day for what, 5 summers?
3 summers.
3 summers, just working nonstop, always behind the scenes, always awkward, always insecure. And now here he's found himself at this precipice where he's making the best music of his life.
Yeah. I would say, like, my friends and I go back and forth on this for way too long. And anyone who's not a Ye head that's listening to this is going to hate this.
Oh, yeah. Just skip right ahead. Go to that 1 hour
like
mark.
10 minutes from now. That's when the gems come in. But my favorite Kanye song is Can't Tell Me Nothing. Hands down. Yeah. Power is a close one. Runaway is a close one. I Am a God is really good. You notice in I Am a God, I was reading like critique of it and whatever, right? And some person was saying like, when he says the chorus, it's not like he's saying I am a God. Like he's saying I am a God, right?
Yes.
And he's trying to, it's almost like he's trying to convince himself and the listener that he is a God.
Exactly.
Right? And they're saying, no, you're not. So I feel like there's a lot of elements to that, to his music. It's like, you really almost don't believe you're good enough. But this guy, if you listen to his music, you might trick yourself into thinking you're good enough. And then you're going to do something, and then you're going to realize you're good enough, right? It's like he's the guy who starts off the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? There's this thing called the Pygmalion Effect.
Tell me.
I don't even know if I said that word properly.
No, I think that's right. Yeah, Pygmalion, yeah.
But it's basically like there was this study across like classrooms or something where like randomly assigned students were their names were like mentioned to the teacher as like super like high potential people or whatever, right? And the teacher's like, oh, okay, whatever. And so you fast forward a year, all of these students performed a lot better than average. And so the effect basically is saying, hey, like if somebody recognizes that you like somebody thinks that you're going to do great, they're going to treat you in a way that enables you to do great.
Interesting.
Right? And so I wish I had more specifics on the study, but that's the effect's name.
So that can be used for yourself. You can talk yourself into expecting greatness from yourself.
Yeah.
And so can you use the Pygmalion Effect on yourself, essentially?
Yeah, like that's what Kanye's music is for our generation, right? But for the one before us, like Seth Godin, I was listening to this podcast with Seth Godin and the guy who made Billions. What's his name?
Oh.
We should know this.
I just know the character, David Axelrod from there, but I don't know the actual creator of the... I know who you're
Brian
talking
Koppelman.
About. There we
Brian
go.
Koppelman.
Boom.
And
shout out to Brian Koppelman, man.
Yeah,
Showtime.
He's a G.
Showtime.
But...
Sorry.
So Seth Godin was saying when he was trying to do the book publishing thing, he was so dejected for like 2 years or a year, he didn't make any sales or something. And every day for like 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, he listened to like Zig Ziglar tapes, right? And that's basically what this is for us. Like that's Kanye West for our generation.
I couldn't agree more, man. Some of the biggest milestones in my life all had Kanye West in there. Like all of my TED Talks, both of them that I did, right before I went up on stage, I was listening to Power nonstop, listening to all of Kanye's tracks.
Power's your favorite track?
I would say Power's one of my favorite tracks, and we actually have a fun segment coming up where we'll go into a little bit more. But anybody who criticizes Kanye West and thinks that he's too egocentric and that his music is, not listenable because he's only talking about himself, I mean, I would encourage you to talk to Herbert, talk to myself, because we're people that have struggled with insecurity our entire lives. And so when I listen to Kanye, I'm listening from a place of, I don't like myself, I hate my work, I don't think I'm good enough. And listening to him and his braggadocious lyrics takes me from a place of self-hate and almost dejection to a place of, okay, I'm good enough. Never great, but good enough.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he did that for us, man. And it's been really wild to track his journey ever since then. Do you think he's still at the top of his game?
Well, before I get to that,
please.
I think like there's that viral video of the lady who quits her job, like, and I think she plays Late by Kanye West. Yeah. and she went on Oprah
Yeah,
or like
I remember that,
I'm
yeah.
like that, like it's not just us, right?
No.
And then, do I think he's at the top?
It's tough, man.
That is tough.
Because once upon a time, he was in the top 5% of all rappers, producers.
He's definitely
stars.
still in the top 5%.
You think?
I don't think like. I thought your question was, is he at his best right now?
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's answer both. Is
Yeah.
Kanye at his best? And then the second question is he still in the pantheon, the top 5?
Most people wouldn't
percent.
say he is because he hasn't released music lately.
Fair.
Right? And because like all of his like statements recently have been so like controversial,
Right.
to say the least, right? I would say Ye is not my favorite album by him. But did I listen to it endlessly? Yeah.
Same.
Like Kids See Ghosts, like maybe less than Ye, but yeah. But Daytona, oh my gosh. Daytona was album of the year. Hands down. I don't care what the Grammys say. Daytona, I haven't stopped listening to Daytona.
Couldn't agree with you more. Flawless production.
Right.
So good.
Right. And that's a Ye production. And let's not like Pusha was great.
Hey,
Right.
can we give a quick shout out to Drake though, man? I'll
Yeah.
tell you why.
Yeah.
Daytona, anyone on the receiving end of that, their career should have done.
it'd be over.
Their career
It'd
should have
be
been a
over.
wrap.
Yeah.
How is Drake still winning despite that?
You know what? Drake, going back to what we were saying before, right, about the gangster thing. If rap and hip hop didn't become, well, first of all, Drake is like a pop artist. He's
I
not
would
really
say so.
just
I actually call him a band more than anything.
right. Drake's a band.
He's a band,
OVO
yeah.
is the band.
Yep.
Right. So, like, if it was pure hip hop, like Drake would have been long gone. Like
For
maybe the Joe
sure,
Budden
man.
diss would have ended him. You know.
I know, I saw it too.
But like, he's just such a big artist that nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
So like Meek Mill would have ended him, but no, like nobody cares. And Drake knows how to like maneuver that landscape really well. But to Push's credit, Push is like not a mainstream artist. Nobody knows him.
That's so sad though, man. Yeah.
Yeah, what a shame. But like after that, like everybody knows him as like Thanos, right? Because he's so
Pusha
mean.
T, Pusha Thanos.
That was so mean. And you know what? I'm like, I loved it. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? Like, that's great. That's like, I didn't like just the ideas, right? Because Drake's always been about ideas as well, right? His lines are pretty good, but if you listen to Back to Back and all these things, they're really good.
Right.
But like the things we remember are like the memes he throws on stage.
Totally.
And like
The catchphrases. Is that a world tour or your girls tour?
yeah. And so Pusha like played that game really well with
Mm-hmm.
Drake too, right? So
It's interesting what happened with Drake, right? So I would credit a lot of these artists right now. They can look back and they can say Kanye West was influential in their career.
Yeah.
I think 808s and Heartbreak was a transitional moment in hip hop that gave permission to a lot of rappers to become more self-aware, to look introspectively, to become more vulnerable and emotional. I would say that Drake would credit his entire career to that moment. 808s really opened up the door for him to do more melancholic songs, wouldn't you say?
well, Drake did Say What's Real, right? So
Yes.
so I had friends who didn't even know what Say You Will was.
Mm-hmm.
And only now are looking at like, but anyway, the thing about that is I feel like if Kanye didn't do it, maybe Drake could have done it himself. I don't know. Like it's hard to say these things,
But-
right?
but the
'Cause
landscape-
world was ready for it.
I think so. I think the
Maybe
world was
Kanye
ready
was
for
ahead
it.
of it even, right?
Because the world was experiencing a saturation
Yeah.
of the stereotypical gangster rap at that point. Like I think 50 Cent had worn his welcome, that sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
popping them things. Like
he marked like the tail end of it, and he went out with a bang,
bang,
right?
yeah.
Like
We forget.
I
man.
still listen to Get Rich or Die Trying.
So
I
good.
love Get Rich or Die Trying.
It really captures 2003. Like it really just
Yeah.
captures the feelings of what
Yeah.
was happening, musically speaking. But now here we are, and we're on the eve of Yandi. It'll drop any day now.
You seen the Sunday service stuff?
I have.
Oh my gosh.
What are your thoughts?
How are you gonna how are you telling me he's not at the top of his game when he makes that stuff? You know what I'm saying?
You got DMX to do a sermon.
Oh my gosh.
I loved it, man. So
oh
good.
my gosh.
And then the memes that came from that with North dancing. and
Right.
whatnot.
Or even like, dude, like you think about Lift Yourself.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And like oh my gosh.
Minus
like,
scoopity poop. Though, right?
But you know what? Like that's just so like disrespectful to the listener that you've wasted such a good, but that's awesome because it's like that's how good you are, right?
Absolutely.
So like, Yeah.
So you would say that he's at the top of his game, and after hearing this,
I think there can be an argument made, but I would say like I really miss 2016 Kanye, like when he's doing Yeezy season, like God knows
Good
what
Friday
season that was,
releases
but there
and
was
all
one
that.
where he was like, it was right before he dropped The Life of Pablo. That was crazy, like
Yeah.
that.
that rollout.
But then you're gonna get me started on talking about everything else, and I'm like, oh, like everything else was crazy.
We'll come right back
Yeah.
to it.
And
though.
then to the 808s point, like the question also is like, oh, what about Cudi, right? Because like
Yes.
Kid Cudi came up independently of all of that, and sure, like Kanye worked together with him to make it, but like, you know, left unchecked, he could have just like, there's no like, who could have told what happened, right?
No.
If we're gonna talk about history, like that.
I think that Kanye will get his props from the mainstream, God forbid, when it happens, when he passes away. Like when he dies,
man.
we're going to look at his contributions to everything. We're going to look at his contributions to media, to music, to fashion. You know, people were laughing when he said, I invented the jogging pants.
Leather
I'm like,
jogging
hold on,
pants.
do your research. That actually was popularized by Kanye. I mean, when you look at the silhouettes that have come from all the Yeezy releases, he's influenced everything. Everything that all of us are wearing in this room right now, you can trace back the origins to something that was on the runway for Yeezy season, or something that was sketched in his mind, or even that made it to mainstream. So in many ways, Kanye, he says he's a genius and people laugh, but the truth is he is in the top 5% of many things. You gave one of my favorite quotes of all time in my class last year on the panel with Pollyanna Reed. You said, if you can't be in the top 5% of one thing, be in the top 25% of two things. And hearing that from you, especially somebody as accomplished as yourself, gave me permission to not beat myself up over not being at the top of several things. And I gave myself permission to be in the top 25% of two things. Where did that Herbert original come from?
Yeah, it's not a Herbert original. First of all, I gotta
Damn.
say, man,
You made it sound like it, though.
So the thing about Kanye, one last point,
Please, go in,
is
man.
there's this saying that Pharrell has, which is like, credit is not to be taken, it's to be given. And I feel like Kanye takes credit for a lot of stuff. So the world is not used to seeing someone like that. Like, it's against social convention. So it doesn't matter whether what he says is true or not. You just feel like he's a jerk for doing that.
Right.
So that's a personal style thing. I agree. I think maybe when he retires even, right? If he's just quieter, or like he's like less harmful, meaning like competitive, meaning people it feels like he's a threat. That's what I mean by harmful, not that he's actually harmful.
Sure.
Like people will be like, oh, like that, like we'll be looking back when we're older and being like music used to be good when Kanye used to whatever, right? And now like whatever.
But there's something to that point, though. Like, he is extending the runway of what's possible for us.
For
like,
sure.
to a certain extent, both of our careers have been influenced by Kanye, giving us permission to say, hey,
Everybody's has.
we can be creative, we can be nerds, we can be technically sound at what we do, and not have to participate in this other lane to get to where we want to go.
Yeah.
I think about that Breakfast Club interview with Jay-Z, where he's like, Charlamagne's like, how would you describe Kanye? And Jay-Z chuckles. He's like, Kanye's that one guy that runs over the hill and runs back with arrows in his chest saying, there's enemies over there.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, yeah. That's what Kanye is
Yeah.
to us, man.
Yeah.
And like, God, I think I'll shed a tear when I get the news that he died, man. I'll be
Dude,
like, I lost
shed a tear
an
thinking
uncle,
about it,
man.
Damn.
Wow, it's got dark quick, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
The Herbert original, sorry.
yeah, to get back to that was, I think, the idea of top 5% in one thing versus top 25% in two. I think I originally read it on Mark Andreessen's blog, right? This guy, Mark Andreessen, he's like a venture capitalist now, but he did Netscape. I'm going to put this
Oh, yeah,
there.
please, sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
You can still see it.
Nice.
So he did Netscape and all this stuff, and he's like a venture capitalist now, and he was the one who suggested this. And you can, if you go to pmarchive.com, PMARCHIVE.com, there's this guy, Cameron Cozen, I don't even know if I said Cam's last name right, but he had created and archived all of these blog posts because Mark Andreessen took it down. And basically one post is about that. this guy Scott Adams, I just like name drop like way too many people. I'm like
I
a
love it,
productivity geek, huge productivity geek. So this guy Scott Adams, who made Dilbert, talks about it as the talent stack, and he uses Trump as the example, right? Controversial example.
Sure.
But Trump is not the best at any one thing.
No.
But he's really good at speaking, and he's really good at like he's good at quite a few things, like persuading people of stuff, right?
Charismatic.
If you're the top 25% of those, right, and charisma, top 3 things, you're good. And that, so Scott Adams calls this the talent stack, where you stack these unusual talents together. So he himself is an example of that. Nobody goes to Dilbert to read the drawings. That's what he says. Or to see the drawings.
Drawings, yeah.
But because he's kind of funny and he can draw kind of well, you like, boom, you have Dilbert. Right? So he combined those 2 skills to create that one thing. And then Kanye's combined like a bunch of skills.
A bunch of them producing
a lot of different
performance.
Things. Yeah.
When did you give yourself permission to not be at the top in the top 5% of one thing? And I would disagree if you said that you weren't, because I believe that you are in the top 5% of writers that I've seen.
Thanks. So I think it was actually seeing a lot of people do a lot of different stuff. Like Kanye is one example of that, but there's a lot of examples of that, right? You have like, off the top of my head, you have like Ryan Holiday does marketing and writing. Eddie Wong does food writing and
television
like,
production. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's so many like, and
even Donald Glover, for instance, right? Like Childish Gambino.
Great example, right?
Renaissance
like,
man, truly.
Yeah. You just have like an incredible number of people. Even like a performance artist like Marina Abramovich. Like she does like it's performance art, sure, but like she had to figure out how her stomach acid worked in order to do one of her like there's no limit. Like the boundaries for that field are so like
broad, yeah.
Yeah, there aren't any, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it was just reading examples like that and really liking it. And I don't think anyone has like that one thing they want to do, right? Like,
why do you think the education system like tries to push us in this direction of specialization? Be really fucking good at one thing.
Yeah.
Versus have a multitude of skills that you can really develop. Like I look at Kwaku, for instance. Kwaku's a perfect example of this, man. Top 25% in a whole bunch of things, an array of things, not even 2 things, like photography, videography, maybe audio engineering. We saw some hiccups at the beginning over there, so we might be a little skeptical, but usually he's on point, though. Usually he's on point.
But he's cutting that.
Why does the education system, at least for us coming up, why did it force us to just do one thing?
You know what, man? I don't know if it's even just that. I feel like it was the paradigm. Right? Like, it's like our parents would be like, I don't know about yours. My parents would be like, or like, be this, right? Be this person. Don't be that. Like occupation wise.
Yeah.
Like, don't be a
it was
TV
binary,
anchor. Be an engineer. Like,
doctor, lawyer, whatever.
And so we were used to categorizing things in a bunch of boxes. But now, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you want to use big words like zeitgeist or whatever, paradigm, as I did earlier, like I think the barriers to those things have been opened up because we see different, like, college isn't the only signal, or university isn't the only signal for it anymore. So you see a bunch of different unconventional paths into like previously like positions that people thought like you had to go up the ladder for.
Right.
So there's that. I think like the way a corporation is structured is still like, there's that old cog in the machine sort of thing. And I think that's only true to a certain extent now because most of your time is spent in meetings. So like, but you still need to be really, really good at some things, right? Because that's what they hire you for. Like you need to be really, really good to solve a problem. If you look at like, maybe med is a good example of that, right? Like medicine is just like, everything is so complicated that to get to the starting line of being a doctor, you need to go through 7 years of med school and like plus everything else all of us had to go through.
Such a gated industry, right?
So, and that's even just before you specialize. Yeah. Because there's so much to learn, right? So then the question then becomes, okay, did they have to learn everything? And are there now tools where they don't have to learn like everything? So I think it's like, it's a combination of all of those things.
So in your case, right, like you decided to go and start Wonder Shuttle almost immediately after you graduated.
Yeah.
Was there any buffer period where you were doing something else?
I was working my day job at Extreme Labs at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and shortly after it got bought by Pivotal, I went and started Wonder Shuttle, and I did it full time shortly after that.
And that's amazing that you did that, right? Because your risk tolerance and your entrepreneurial drive are two other skills that you brought and you paired with your ability to write really well. Great researcher, great writer, great leader as well. You can work with multiple people. What's amazing about this, though, is that you look at the landscape and you see Condé Nast bleeding. You see these agencies crumbling. You see the old guard changing.
Yeah.
And anybody who specialized in one thing is on the chopping block. There's no other organization out there that isn't experiencing the downside of upstarts like you coming up and saying, hey, we can plug ourselves into your organization and do this in a really agile, swift way. And we're flexible, we're adaptable, we have options. Here you are, man. I mean, it's wild to see the success that you've had with Wonder Shuttle. You're on year 5 now?
Yeah, just past it.
What do you credit your ability to make it through those dire straits that capsize most companies? Because by year 5, I'd say 95% of companies fail.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's very nice of you. I would even say I would run a narrative that's to counterbalance some of those very nice things you said. I would say it's way easier to do it when you're young. This is something that a friend of mine and very much like a mentor, Ray O'Kane, he told me. He was like, if you're going to do a business, do it like when you're really young because your lifestyle isn't caught up. You don't have commitments. Like you have the energy.
Yeah.
It's not as easy later on as I'm feeling right now too, right? And so like I felt like my window wasn't really that wide open. Like I didn't start things that young, right? Like I was 14, I was lost. There's a lot of people. There's a top 14 under 14 now, you know? Like man. I don't know. So anyway, like my point there was I was like in a fortunate position at the time where I was freelancing for 3 people and my income was starting to match the income I was making at Extreme. So it's a no-brainer, right? I was like, in some ways I was A/B testing life. Like, you know, these days I was freelancing, these days I was working at Extreme, and I liked those days I was freelancing a lot more. And I felt like I was learning more. I was meeting more interesting people. Which is no knock on Extreme because that's a pretty high bar. You have like you look at Extreme alumni now and it's crazy.
What the things like the PayPal mafia in Toronto, right?
Right, and so like I felt like that was true, and so I was like, okay, let's just try this thing, and in the worst case, I can go back if I need to. And I was lucky enough that, you know, I still think that's really important. Like lifestyle creep is like the devil.
Oh yeah.
There's this tweet that I think it was Austin Kleon or somebody had where it was like do the things you love plus high lifestyle equals time bomb. Do the things you love and less lifestyle or
adjust.
An inexpensive lifestyle equals a good life. And so I think that's really true.
I heard about that described as the tapestry effect, and it creeped up with basketball players and football players especially. Like, you're Lonzo Ball and you see LeBron James pull up in a new Ferrari, you're like, maybe I should upgrade. But if you're going to get the Ferrari, you also have to get the driveway to match. And if you want to get the driveway to match, you got to get the house to match. And before you know it, you're living way outside of your means. I think it's really...
And you have people you want to take care of and all these things.
Exactly.
Right? So...
How have you managed to keep your lifestyle modest? I mean, when I say modest, I'm looking at you and I'm like, holy man, this guy's just fashionable head to toe, man. I don't want to ask, man.
Dude, these boots are like 5 to 6 years old.
I don't believe it, man.
Yeah, there's holes in them.
Balenciaga boots or something,
not
bro.
like, no, man, they're just stock. You know? But like, and then I just wear black T-shirts all the time. My friends know that. White T-shirts in the summer sometimes.
That's it. Capsule wardrobe.
Yeah.
I asked because I see Bailey, my partner right now, and she's building up her business and she is just bootstrapped, man, earning money hand over fist. The lifestyle hasn't budged even a little bit.
Yeah, that's the key.
That discipline over there is something I didn't have when I was starting my companies, man, and something I've had to work on with increasing difficulty as I've gotten older and wanting more comforts. How have you been able to stay focused on maintaining the right lifestyle while building your business?
I wouldn't even say I'm the best at it because, like, I hired for, like, I paid way too much for a bookkeeper earlier on, stuff like that. But I don't know. I think it's, like, it's so personal, these things, right? Like for me, like me cutting back on drinking, for example,
Sure.
saves so much money.
It's wild, right?
It's
It's wild.
insane. Even if you go out, you just pay for the Uber, you pay for like ginger ale.
Yeah, that's
like,
it.
And like one shot maybe, right?
No,
or your friends will get you the shot.
You
They'll
usually
be like, oh my God,
pay more
you're
on
drinking.
alcohol than you did on your food in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And so even just changing that portion of my lifestyle, like change that, right? There's other things like it's like, oh, like you don't fly anywhere without a flight deal.
Mm-hmm.
You try to split Airbnbs with your friends, or like you try to minimize rent whenever you can. Like those are the biggest things, right? Like if you were to look, like just I remembered I'm not a budgeting person. Like I don't like budgets.
Same, man.
That's probably why we have problems with this.
It just feels so restrictive, man.
Yeah,
It's like you're
it's
gonna
like,
curb
what's
my
the point
happiness,
of living?
bro. Yeah.
And so for me, I think that even just looking for a month at what's coming in and what's going out, right? Just take an hour of your day and look at that, and you'll see like, oh, like I spent like $400-$500 on Uber in a month. Okay, that's fine. Are you doing that on purpose or not? With everything, it's like, are you doing it on purpose or not? And that's pretty much it, right? It's like, are you letting like other impulses control you, or like peer pressure or whatever? Or are you doing it on purpose?
Right.
And then just try to do more stuff on purpose.
I did this exercise, you might dig this, man, where I spent some time mapping out what the perfect day in my life looks like. I'm like, if everything was maxed out, if I was waking up here, if I was taking this form of transportation to work, if I was traveling this many times a week, if I was attending concerts, so on and so forth, what would it cost if I had to extrapolate everything for 365 days and factor in inflation? And I came up with a number, and that number was $156,000 a year.
Jeez.
I need to make $156,000 a year to be at peak happiness. And I looked at the number and I laughed because I was like, whoa, this is not the number that I grew up thinking. The number that was in my mind was $1 million a year that I need to make before taxes. And I was like, hold on, if the number is 156, like if you start flicking a few levers over here, not that hard, man.
Yeah.
Not that hard.
Yeah.
Like if you're being paid a salary at that time when I did the math, I was like, I'm being paid $50,000. I'm like, okay, so I'm a third of the way there. How do I now double this and then triple this?
Yeah.
It's not that hard to figure out.
Yeah.
And I think more people need to do that. They need to get real about what it is that they want from their lifestyle.
Yeah. I think it's also just figuring out like there's that saying, right? There's 3 levels of rich, which is like you don't have to worry about what you eat. And the next 2, my friends and I always go back because we have different, like we just have different ideas on it, or we learn different ones. I think the next one is you can buy a car anytime you want. Right. Any car. And then you can buy a plane anytime you want. Any plane. Oh,
shit. That third level is elusive,
that's
man.
crazy. And then the less like intense one was, I think you don't have to worry about paying your bills. You can eat anything you want, and then you can travel anywhere you want, or something like that, right? A bit more modest, but still very respectable. And so it's like figuring out what you're doing right now and where, by default, it's going to take you in like 5-10 years, right? It's kind of what you did. It's like, oh, like I'm making $50K a year. Yeah. Well, next year, if I'm lucky, I can get 60.
Exactly.
Well, okay, like then next year, if I'm lucky, I can get X, right?
Yeah.
And if that's enough for you, that's great. Because there's a lot of benefits that come with that too, right? Stability, not that so much stress. You get to like work with people that you don't have to worry about paying. Yeah. Like there's a lot of good, happy things that come from making like that type of lifestyle.
Absolutely, man. Do you feel like when you were coming up in the game that you were afraid of making money, that you were afraid of succeeding?
I don't know. That's like a very like subconscious question.
Let me rephrase that a little bit, right? Like, were you able to visualize the lifestyle that you have right now? Because I think that you've unlocked, like you've hacked the system and you've achieved what I call retirement lifestyle, where you can basically choose not to work and it wouldn't make a dent. Like you can go on vacation, you can delegate your entire workflow. You don't have to ask permission from anybody to do anything. Like you've won. Like you've done the thing that I think most people are trying to do and spend the entirety of their careers doing.
Thank you, man. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I still need to be in there pushing the machine for the flywheel to go around.
How active do you have to be in that process, though?
Getting less active, right? But still, like, sales, for example. It's like, okay, like, what you've done with inbound leads is really great, right? For Splash Effect.
Right.
But for me, I'm like, I don't get that much inbound yet. So I'm like, oh, like then I need to go out and prospect. I need to go referrals, for
Yeah,
example,
there's an active
right?
process.
And
in
so
there.
there's like, I need to do that. But, you know, to your point, I have a plan for how I'm going to get the inbounds. But until that plan really kicks in and we execute on that plan, like I'm going to be like, I still need to like really actively make these other things happen.
The reason I'm asking is, do you have a vision of where Wonder Shuttle is going to be and what it's going to do for your lifestyle 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah, I have an idea. I don't think it's just my lifestyle. I think I want it to be for my whole team.
Okay.
And, you know, and so with that idea, it's like, oh, like, I think with anything, it's important to know why you're doing something. And for us, it's like, okay, cool. We want to make enough money to, we want to make enough money to do our creative projects, right? And to not even just to live, but to do our creative projects. B, we want to work with customers we're really proud of. And C, we want to do work that's really interesting and that makes us really happy. So those 3 things, like I think following those 3 principles alone will get us closer and closer and closer to this place we're trying to go.
And like, how realistic do you get with conversations about money with yourself? Like, do you talk to yourself about like strict financial goals and objectives that you have?
Yeah, I honestly don't think it takes that much money to make me happy. But I would say...
Can you buy a plane anytime? Yeah.
No, not yet. Even with Wonder Shuttle, like you can
buy a
take it
shuttle
to
yet?
car level. I think with agencies, you can take it to car level.
Right.
And I like agency studio, whatever you want to call it. But it's really hard unless you become a holding company, it's really hard to get to plane level. So it's being really honest with myself about that too, right? I don't really need to buy my own planes.
No.
I tell this to myself now. But if like you handed me a plane, I'd be like, sure. But I don't want it. Like,
Dude,
it's like also being really honest with the things about like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get that thing, right?
Exactly.
I think like
How
it's
badly
like,
do you want it? Yeah.
right? And like the worst is like committing to something and like setting that expectation on yourself, and then realizing you didn't really want to do it in the first place.
Dude.
And then you got the thing, but you're like, I hate my life.
Yeah.
And you're like, I didn't even really want this thing. So
That was my early 20s, man. Early 20s, I reached all my goals, and I'm like, what? This sucks.
Yeah.
What the heck? These were goals like written by some 17-year-old with lofty ambitions about the world was supposed to.
right?
Exactly, bro.
But you did it though, right? At least you did it, and you didn't spend another like X years trying. Like the worst thing than that is wishing you did it,
Yes.
right? Which is like so much like regret, but in the immediacy, you're like, oh, like so much frustration and anger versus the emotions we have to deal with are like anxiety and stress and a little bit of anger, but
Totally.
fear, right? Like all of these things. Like, I think I'd rather deal with those. I'm personally more equipped to deal with those things than I am to deal with frustration and like stagnation and like those flip sides to comfort.
Right.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to Kanye, man. We all circle back to Mr. Yeezy over here, who anytime he drops an album, I feel like it's the State of the Union. It's like a reflection and insight into what is going on in his head and what's going on in his life and how it is that we should be thinking and what perspectives we need to either take in or reject. I have an exercise over here, and this is totally optional. It's known as the Halo Skull segment of the podcast. Did you play Halo back in the day?
Yeah.
So you know the skulls, right? You know the skulls that you activate and they create modifiers and almost like handicaps. So if you activate like the birthday skull, for instance, anytime you shoot a grunt, head explodes and you see like confetti.
Multiplayer.
So you would have activated some of these skulls,
Really?
no?
I always play like local multiplayer. Like wait, what Halo is this? Like 1, 2,
I think they introduced
3,
the skulls
5?
in like Halo 2 or 3.
Okay. No, I still played that.
Interesting.
I only remember like rocket launchers and shotguns and like the sword.
Damn,
Like,
okay.
I remember that stuff.
Well, basically, whenever you're going back and playing any of the games, you can
Okay.
activate these skulls, and they just make the situation that you're about to go into more difficult.
exciting. Yeah.
More exciting, more difficult, whatever you say. And in this case, what we do is we would custom make some Halo modifiers for the guests.
Let's
And so
do
we
it.
made one just for you.
Thank
But
you,
I
man.
have to give you a warning, and this is totally optional. You have to opt into it. If you participate in the Halo Skull segment, then you become eligible to win Guest of the Year. We put it up to the vote. We put up to a vote. All the listeners vote on who their favorite guest was, and if you win a WWE style belt. That's Guest of the Year.
That's crazy.
But if you don't do it, that's fine. We'll skip ahead. I will say that this particular exercise that we've created might put some strain on a friendship.
Okay, cool.
Are you down?
I'm willing to test our friendship.
Okay, so Mr. Herbert Lui, this Halo Skull exercise is called Rank That Kanye Album.
Okay, sick.
And
Do
what
we
I've
need
done-
to match or?
No, we need to actually talk it out.
Okay.
So I've given ourselves 1 minute each. So we each have 1 minute, and here's how we do this. take one of those piles of paper over there.
Okay.
In there, you have every Kanye album minus Kids See Ghosts. That
Okay.
was a controversial one because I was like, is that
Do you
really
have
a
Watch the
Kanye
Throne
album?
on here too?
Everything's on this.
Yo, how are you not gonna put Kids See Ghosts on there?
But is that a Kanye album though?
Yeah.
No.
Watch the Throne is. If Cruel Summer is.
It is, right? I always thought it was a Cudi album.
It's a Kids See Ghosts album, Hamza. So to your point, it's a Kids See Ghosts
Okay, then I fucked up. I'm sorry. Okay, you
No,
know
it's
what?
all good. It's all good.
This-
Because you're right in that Kanye doesn't use his album name on it. Like, he doesn't use his artist name on it.
Because when I was thinking about the rollouts, I'm like, okay, so Kanye already has an album. His album was Yay,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Kids See
And
Ghosts was a
then-
Cudi album that he
You know
featured
what?
on.
I can be persuaded to this.
No, but I'm wrong though because there were some solo Kanye cuts on that, weren't they?
I
Weren't
think
there?
so.
In any case, let's
I
go
know
back
there's
and
a
debate
solo
this.
Cudi. There's a solo Cudi stuff.
Another one that's coming out.
No. There was solo Cudi songs on there.
Oh man, which one had one of my favorite songs, Ghost Town?
Yeah.
Oh, so good, man. I put my hand on the stove.
Oh,
to
that's
see if I
that's
still
yeah,
bleed.
yeah.
Oh, incredible,
Yeah.
man. Anyways, brother,
You can tell I'm like not very familiar. I'm like,
this could be a whole other podcast just
yeah.
about Kanye.
I'm kind of glad
man.
you didn't put that on there because I've been like, oh, like I've listened to this like 5 times. I don't know.
That's it, man. So I'm going to turn on the timer and let's
Okay.
lay this all out. I think what would help is if you actually just splay them out on the table.
Okay.
So that it's easier for you to arrange them.
Yeah.
And then what you want to do is from left to right, arrange your favorite album to your least favorite album.
Best on the left.
Best on the left,
Okay.
and then not best on the right.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, and so we're going to have a minute to do this. I'm going to start the timer right now.
A minute.
And
see, for
I
anybody
know.
else. Oh, you do have Kids See Ghosts on here.
Oh,
see,
shit.
for anybody else, it would be very difficult. But
Where do you
for
see Kids See Ghosts?
guys
Oh,
like
yeah.
us-
Okay, it made it on. Boom.
Oh, shit. Right.
All right, so
Oh, I'm halfway there. man.
Herbert, ready to go? Hold on, you got a head start. One, 2, 3, boom. Okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
Let's do this. So
I didn't know I was. Let's see here. Oh, you know what? That goes there.
for
You
all
know
the
what?
listeners,
This is so difficult.
It's
and I've
terrible.
done this. I do this like every day in my head. Me and my roommate used to do this a lot.
and did it test your roommatehood,
did.
your friendship?
It did, but we always ended up like converging
I also think it's a reflection of where you're at a particular
life,
time in your
or on
life,
that day.
but also what you got from each album.
Yeah, it'd be something like this. This is insane to me. This
It's really difficult. And look at the fucking
this
body
can't
of
be
work,
here.
right?
This can't be here.
This body
No,
of
you
work
know
is
what?
something
This can't
else,
be here.
man. Have you listened to Cruel Summer recently?
Oh my gosh. I haven't listened to Cruel Summer recently. No, I can't believe it's that far down.
Right?
I'm looking at this. I'm like, these are like bangers.
We still have 5 seconds if you want to make any changes.
No, this is great.
All right. Boom. Herbert, we did it. So, let's talk this out.
No way,
Oh
man.
my- I'm so
we
upset right
we
now,
went
man.
backwards, dude.
Okay, well let's start
Oh,
from the
fantasy.
beginning.
We got fantasy. I couldn't believe graduation's all the way here. I agree.
Let's start with The Life of Pablo. That's your favorite
That's
Kanye
my
album of all
favorite
time.
Kanye album of all time.
Talk me through this, man.
Yeezy was good.
Good. Oh man.
My friend Ramiz, I
Silver
pick up the phone,
Surfer.
I answer him all the time. Meezy was good. It's so funny.
Also, just in terms of variance in sound, like he experimented with everything on that.
Yeah, I could. If you're telling me, oh, it's really disjointed,
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
And it's somehow cohesive, even though it's disjointed. I think
Yeah.
that because
It's
it's
like-
so
yeah.
jarring, it all flows really well.
Yeah, exactly. It's all inconsistent. That's the great part. But like, you know, it was so good. I just really liked the Life of Pablo. I could listen to Life of Pablo and Fantasy, like front to back, easy.
And I think it also is sonically, it's very much a 2017, 2018 sound in that there's no song that remains structurally the same for very long. Like Father Stretched My Hands is 4
Yeah.
songs mashed into one.
Right.
It works with the
Yeah.
attention span of the modern listener, I
Right.
think. Interesting. So I had My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy as song number 1. You had
That's
Life
my
of
second.
Pablo, but because you had a second, we're good.
Yeah.
Graduation finds itself in your top 5. It was number 2 for me.
Yeah, graduation's sick.
Why is Watch
My
the Throne?
favorite graduation.
Yeah, what is your
my-
favorite?
Can't Tell Me Nothing is
Yeah.
like my favorite song is on graduation.
Where was
I
that?
can't believe it's down there.
I know, right?
I'm tripping right now. I need another minute.
I need another minute. And I realized
We're like talking. I'm like, oh wait. You're right.
I messed up because Kids See Ghosts, I thought this was another album. This should be all the way at the end.
Cruel Summer, or
Yeah,
which one?
I would have moved.
See Ghosts
I would
would've
have moved
been all
Kids
the
See
way at
Ghosts
the-
and switched it with
yeah.
Yeezus. So I
Oh,
fucked
okay,
up.
yeah.
Can I switch it real
Of
quick if you don't
course.
mind?
Yeah,
All right.
because we both have Yeezus fourth. If you do that.
So that's perfect. Why is Yeezus in the top 5 for you?
First of all, the Yeezus tour was crazy.
Nothing like
After
it.
the Did you go to you went to the Pablo tour?
I did.
And you went in the mosh.
Bro,
and how are you going to put it down there?
My biggest regret in life is not being in the mosh. I was one row away from there. That was the closest I've come to a religious experience, man. I fucked up.
My theory is you would have regretted doing the mosh.
Why?
And if you really wanted to go, you could have gone. Because first of all, there's some things in life that are way easier to or better to watch and listen to than to actually do, right? So like the Rockstar Life, for example, is like, oh, like that sounds sick. You give me a choice, I probably wouldn't do it. Because you're on the road all the time and you're like you get to like there's just so much BS that comes with that, you know? So like I was similarly like maybe like not first row, but like 10 rows or 15 rows up with my cousin, and like I was watching and I was like, this is sick. And for like a split second I was like, yo, let's go down. And we have wristbands, we can come back up. Yeah. But I'm like, nah, that's stupid. I'm gonna get like a broken tooth or something. Like at festivals we've gotten close enough to be in mosh and I was like, I hated it. I'm like super like I like my space. I like being cozy. Yes, I don't want to get my teeth knocked out. Bro. Yeah. So I wasn't super sad I didn't join the mosh. Interesting, man. I love that album just because of how futuristic it sounded. I was like, it's all the way down there. For Life of Pablo, and that's why I messed up though. You know what? It was the duress. It was really the pressure. It's the minute. And I think our conversation at the beginning about 808s had me place 808s way earlier than I would have. I put it on 6. I put it very close. Yeah, very close. So how did Late Registration end up all the way at the end for you? Because I feel like there's some Kanye fans listening to this right now that think that's blasphemous. Yeah, I think so too. It's like rating Harry Potter books. Like it's not that any of them suck, but like this one was just the least good. But this like Late Registration still shits on like maybe like any album release of no, that's not true. Not this year. But like it's like top 5% of rap albums for sure. Music albums for sure. Right? You got like I was thinking about that and like my friends and I would be like, but there's Drive Slow on there. Oh, yeah. There's like, shit. I'm trying to think of non-Gold Digger songs. Diamonds? I like Gold. Oh, Diamonds yeah. Diamonds Forever. And the remix. Yeah. Oh, shit. Like, there's like so many good songs on there. There's Heard 'Em Say, if you like Heard 'Em Say. I'm not a huge fan of Heard 'Em Say. Yeah. But like, there's a lot of really good songs on there. You know what? If we could put Kanye Lucy's out, like All Day and Only One and all those ones. Oh, also, birthday song. Life of Pablo, Real Friends. Oh, yes. And 30 Hours. 30 all the bonus tracks are crazy. Oh my goodness. I fucked up because I forgot that there's Wolves on there too. Wolves is crazy. Man, wow. FML is on there. Yeah. Like, come on, guy. Yeah, I dropped the ball here. You definitely have the better list. Kwaku, is there any heresy over here? Have we fucked up in any way? Like, be honest, man. Like,
no, you guys are on the ball. Definitely, like, I'm curious to know where you guys put Yeezus.
Yeezus is number 4 for us.
Yeah, we're both pretty consistent.
You feel the same way too? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Some of his best. Now, how much of Yeezus though? I might
have even moved it up a little higher. But these 3 are too good to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you can't it's so hard doing this.
But Ye, here's what's sad though. So when we started this podcast, we talked about like, is he still at the top of his game? Yeah. But Ye found itself all the way at the end. I stopped listening to Ye after that initial rollout. Like, do people still listen to Ye?
I listen to Ye sometimes. Like my friend VJ loves Ye. Like he's interesting. Like, this is my favorite Kanye album. All right.
Swears by it.
Maybe it's like me and you are like not in tune with what everybody else is listening to.
I think so, man. Right? Are we old heads now? Like, are we?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. It's not really working, but I'm trying.
It'll be exciting to bring you back on the podcast once Yandi drops and see where that fits. Like,
dude, I hope we don't have to wait that long. That's never gonna drop.
Knows, man. It sounds really upbeat. Like, it sounds like he's in a really happy place in his life. Yeah, man.
It's therapy.
I think so. And like, Ye was interesting when he did that monologue that he opened with talking about his bipolar. The bipolar disorder. I was like, whoa, okay, that's very interesting. No rapper's ever done that before.
Right, like that, obviously. And that, like, directly.
Yeah. Super cool, man. Are you still happy with your list over here?
Yeah, we were going to talk about Watch the Throne, right? Or Cruel Summer.
Let's talk about both, right?
Because it's in the middle. Both of them are in the middle, and I hate that they're in the middle.
No, we actually had Cruel Summer, like, almost side by side. Yeah. So you had it at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. And I had it at 6.
Cruel Summer's nice. I like Cruel Summer.
Where's Cruel Winter, man? I've been waiting for that for a long time.
Everybody's been waiting for that for a long time.
Has one of my favorite lines of all time. Pulled up in the AV Entador. and the doors raise up like praise the Lord.
Dude, man.
Ghetto opera, Francis Ford Coppola. Oh my
Jeez.
goodness.
But the other thing about Pablo, I gotta say this real quick, is Saint Pablo's on there. Saint Pablo is on the updated Pablo thing.
Yes.
And I'm like, Saint Pablo might be one of my favorite songs. Saint Pablo is on my underrated top 5. No, Saint Pablo's in my real top 5, but like it's an underrated song in my top 5.
You know what we got to do
White
after
Dress
this?
too.
White.
Kanye Lucy's. And the Good Fridays, man. The Good Fridays need their own album.
Let's create a Spotify playlist and we'll put it on this.
Yeah.
Kanye Lucy's
Nah,
just the top
it is like way. It exists, man. It exists.
It has to,
Someone's
right?
got Christian Dior denim flow on there. Like,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I feel like we made it through this, and I think the friendship's still very much intact,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
there's nothing.
We're both reasonable people.
I think so. I'd be willing to compromise, except I
fantasy
I
thing.
did fuck up with Life of Pablo.
I'm surprised Dropout is so low for you.
You know what? I think it's just time in my life.
Yeah.
I think I
You're past
wasn't listening to College Dropout when it came out. I was more so because that came out at the same time as Get Rich or Die Trying, believe it or not.
Yeah, it did.
And
I like this more than I like Get Rich or Die Trying.
really, so I'm the other way. I
time.
like Get Rich or Die Trying, but that's because I was like, oh, Kanye's weird. Like, who listens to that kind of music?
Yeah. Man, I remember the first Kanye song and music video I saw
Which
was
one?
like All Falls Down.
Oh,
And it was him. It was
yeah.
like the point of view thing.
POV,
where, like,
yeah.
He who was it? Like Chris Milk directed it, and like I was just recently reading about how they did it, and it's so cool. And like I at the time, like I was like, how are they doing that? He's in the mirror. How am I seeing his hands in the, like, what's going
So
on?
ahead of its time,
And then it
man.
matches. So
Yeah.
it's not like, did they, like, what's going on? You don't see the camera in the mirror. And like,
How
I was
did
at
they
my
do
friend's
it?
place. I don't, it's green screen.
It has
It's
to be,
green
right?
screen,
Yeah.
But they explained it really well in the blog post.
What was the first Kanye song I ever listened to? I heard a Kanye lyric before I heard a Kanye song. So the lyric that I heard was mayonnaise colored Benz. I push miracle whips. Now, 14-year-old
That's
Hamza
on
was
College
like,
Dropout,
yeah,
man.
right?
That's on College
14-year-old Hamza
Dropout.
thought this was poetry.
Yeah.
Like, and it is.
That is poetry.
It is, but I thought it was the most profound thing I've ever
Yeah.
heard. And then the video that I saw in the song that I heard was Slow Jams.
Oh,
Got
yeah.
a white-skinned friend that looks like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, with Twista.
Yeah, Twista, yeah.
You know what? That actually might be I didn't see the video for that, but my friend had Ramiz again had burned this like CD or a mixtape that he like I think he sold it for like 2 or 3 days.
CDRs.
He's like a hustler, man, Ramiz. So like a bunch of us bought it, and Slow Jams was on there, like all of these like he had Jin on there,
Mhm.
like he had like.
Like Jin, Asian rapper Jin?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Shout out to
Learn
Jin,
Chinese
106
was
in
on-
Park. Yeah.
Yo, Jin is cool. Jin is so zen
Yeah,
now. I
man.
love Jin.
I was watching, I watched a lot of rap battles, man. I haven't seen Jin in a while, but I saw Iron Solomon after a long time. Remember that guy?
No.
Oh, man.
Was this on 106?
This is
Like,
106.
Freestyle
So
Friday?
this is actually I forget what was there before like Smack URL and before King of the Dot. There was like another rap league, like a rap battle league.
Oh, okay, cool.
But that's how I saw Jin for the first time,
Okay.
and I saw Iron Solomon on
Oh,
106 in
okay,
Park.
okay.
Those rap battles, man.
Yeah.
What a time, bro. This could be
yeah.
a whole other podcast on just Kanye,
We
man.
should do one on this. We should not brand it as like the ideas in action. I actually already feel like we took up like a lot of productivity time with
I
this.
think so. I feel like there's
But-
like the 2 listeners
Yeah,
left.
they're like, yo!
and they're into it. But listen, if you abandon the podcast in the first half an hour to an hour, don't worry, come right back into this.
We
'cause
gotta say that at the beginning.
I will,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
put a disclaimer. Be like, if you want to skip all the Kanye talk,
Yeah.
come right to this. Let's go into the performance point aspect of this, which is
Sure.
the part that I'm really, really, really excited, more so than the Kanye stuff, to understand how it is that you manage and optimize your time, energy, and attention. I've always looked up to you and the work that you've done with Wonder Shuttle,
you. Likewise.
especially that you've made it past the 5-year mark. Because if you've made it here, there's nothing stopping you from going to year 15, year 50. Let's start with time. So you've worked, I would say, on a couple of different Magnum opuses. Magnum Opie?
Opie.
Right? You've published a book.
People
you've
only
built...
have one magnum opus. Hamza.
But-
I don't want this. I don't want that to be.
But like as somebody who's a big fan of the book, limited edition book, I'm like,
Thank you,
this is beautiful. Like this is art. Somebody poured their life, their time, their energy into producing this thing that's so good. I cannot wait for the next iteration of this. Then you've got articles that you've written that I've referenced time and again, even before we met via 99U. And then you've built the
crazy.
business. How do you structure your time to build a magnum opus? Because there's a lot of people listening to this right now who are like, hey, I'm working on things that I'm, but I haven't worked on the thing for myself yet. I haven't written
Okay.
that book. I haven't built
Yeah.
that business.
If we're gonna talk about the world according to Kanye, for example, so one key point I would say is you can't do it alone. that book in particular, I just didn't have the design skill set to do it. So I worked with a layout designer, and then I worked with a bunch of illustrators who are friends of mine from Western. Sean, Crystal, Warren were illustrating, and Cornelia was doing the layouts. And then there's this like illustrator that I'd worked with. I don't even know where he's from. This guy Jerry, he's a super nice guy, and like we put that book together ourselves, right? And then we shipped it out to printers, who also that like took a long time. But so I would say that's a long-winded way of saying these are all like, this is not all my input, right?
It's a collaborative effort.
It's a very collaborative effort, and I actually think it could have been more collaborative. And like at the time, it was very much me, like product or project managing the whole thing, which was like weekly like meetings at like wherever, and then like it was my money that I would fund. Like, so there wasn't that much complication with it. We weren't trying to make money with it either, which also helped, right? Because there's no like weird like, oh, what's going on with this? It's like everybody's name is going on this. It's all coming out of my pocket though, and like that's it.
I like that a lot, man. That's the philosophy with this podcast. I'm like, this is not a business. We're not trying to make money from this. Eventually, we're going to try and cover some costs once the audience is at a place where I want it to be. But I didn't want the pressure of treating it like a business. I wanted it to be art, so we could have fun with it and have the same sort of like chilling on a Sunday, just talking about it. And I think that came through in the book, man. Yeah. Like, there's several pages in that book where I'm like, whoa, this is just a lot of ink for not a lot of content. Mm-hmm. But thank you for doing that, because it makes for a beautiful reading experience. It was an intentional choice.
Thank you, man. I think we could, like, if we were to work on a V2, we will work on a V2. I don't know how timely it's going to be.
So many new quotes, by the way.
So many new quotes, dude. But also, like, showing it to more people before we shipped it, getting the prototype and showing it to like 10, 15 more people before we shipped it would have been a lot better. And sitting down with them in person as they read it would have been better, not just sending them the PDF. Like using a lot more visuals and going like stripping down the written content and using a lot more visuals.
Right.
Using lyrics better, like stuff like that. Because right now it's just like quotes from interviews and articles.
So your answer would be for anybody thinking about putting together their magnum opus is don't do it alone, basically.
Yeah, don't do it alone. The best life hack is a team.
Interesting. I need a second to process that. Like, as simple as that sounds, that's something that I wish I needed to hear. Something I wish I heard before I started several projects in my life. The best life hack is a team.
Right. And the other thing is, for anyone who thinks they don't have enough money, like, go look at Hyperloop. Hyperloop has a team of 200 or something like that, and they all work for nothing.
What?
It's all equity in Hyperloop. Yeah.
Hyperloop is all equity. I did not know that.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. That might be like some portion of that might be fake news, but I know not all of them, but a large chunk of them work for free. Only for equity.
This is an earmarked project. So they're all Tesla employees. They have their full-time jobs, and then they're working on the side project that's Hyperloop.
I don't think they're all Tesla employees. I think Hyperloop is its own organization. There are actually two Hyperloops for a while, but the one I'm talking about is the one that Elon Musk was like making a big hullabaloo about.
Right.
And yeah, they from what I've read, I think it was in Wired or something, like a bunch of them work just without any cash compensation. And like you look at stuff like Mozilla or Wikipedia, like these are huge community efforts of people working because they buy into a mission. They buy into something bigger. So yeah, the money is nice. If you're building a business, you need money. But if you're just trying to build a movement, like, then you can get somebody bought in for their time if you give them something else.
The best life hack is a team. No, you're absolutely right, man. Anytime that I've done anything worthwhile, there's always been more than one person involved in it. Like, even the book, I started it as a solo endeavor, but by the end of it, there was so many different hands in it. Like, 3 editors were working on it, somebody working on graphics, somebody helping out with marketing. We had 3 wonderful interns that were helping out. You're right, man. I mean, there's no way that... just think about a movie, a motion picture. When have you ever seen one name on a credit slide at the end of a movie? Like, it's always been...
The closest is 127 hours. And it's like a monologue, essentially, right?
Basically.
There's a beginning, there's an end. But, like, you're right. Like, it's too big. That's the other thing, too, is, like, by design, a lot of occupations or, like, crafts are very collaborative.
Right.
So for some people, it doesn't even occur to them not to do it themselves, right? It's like, oh, I need this person, I need that person, I need that person, right? And they teach you that in school or they teach you that online or whatever. But like I think like for people in our industries or our crafts, like it's so tempting just to be like, oh, like I'll just write this on my own, right? But like, you know, you and me talking, I might get an idea from you that you just mentioned off in passing, and I'll be like, wait, what? Right? And that can butterfly effect the whole thing.
As a slight tangent to this, though, how do you resist the temptation to do everything yourself? Because I know that you have really high standard as far as quality is concerned, and you give away pieces of the project for other people to work on. Like, how do you make peace with that? That somebody else is going to work on the thing that you know you can do better.
You realize how shitty you are at it and how good they are at it, and you're like, oh my gosh,
like Kanye and the drums, right?
Yeah, it took me so long to do this like crappy thing, and it took them so little time to do this so well. It's unbelievable, and it makes perfect sense because all the time I spend doing this thing, they spend doing that thing.
Basically, yeah.
It's so arrogant and egotistical to think, oh, I'm gonna be the best at this thing. I can do this, I can do that. If you're talking about a standard of quality, right? And if that's not the case, then you just haven't found the right person yet.
So then this goes back to something that you said earlier, like lean into the two things that you find yourself in the top 25% of and just stick with that. Stay in your lane more or less.
It's hard to be good at like a bunch of things. Mm-hmm. Like I find people who say they're good at a bunch of things aren't really that good at it.
Yeah, they haven't adequately
They're
measured.
like average at best.
Yeah.
A lot of times less than that. Because there's a lot of it gets lost in this thing called context switching, right?
Which is perfect because that's the next question that I have for you. And you do a lot of context switching as an entrepreneur. Like you're switching gears all the time from meetings to proposals to pitching. Dude. Yeah. How do you sustain your energy throughout all the context switching that happens in a day? Because I imagine by the time you're at the end of your workday, you're wiped, dude.
Yeah. Not all the time, sometimes. But there's stuff I do to make sure that's not the case. But to your original point, so there's, I think we've both talked about this, the idea of themed days.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, I think it was, I forgot who. It was unimportant.
Dorsey.
Yeah.
Dorsey did that with Square and Twitter.
Right. So like, basically the idea is you do one certain type of thing every day. So for him, it was like, I'll do Twitter marketing this day. I'll do Twitter product this day. I'll do Square thing this day. So for me, for example, like Wednesday used to be sales day where I would like
only proposals.
And meetings. Like now Wednesday is meeting day where like I do a lot of meetings. So I got to change sales day to another day and whatever, right? So that's how I stay in the zone really. I try to keep all my meetings like if I do them, all my meetings in the afternoon so that in the morning there's like unbroken time.
Yeah.
And whether it's like I go to the gym or I do like 2 or 3 hours of work, like it's unbroken and I'm free to do as I like.
I love that a lot, man. Yeah. Do you try to schedule meetings in the morning or is that like no meeting period? That's the worst thing
I don't
you can
even
do,
like
right?
doing phone calls with my friends in the morning.
Oh, dude,
I
same
try
here,
not
man.
to. Yeah, I try not to do that.
Between the hours of 5 and 1, just solo time, man. Like
5 a.m.
5 a.m. Yeah,
I'm sleeping until like.
But what time do you go to sleep though?
Like 11 or 12.
Oh, so that it works out. Like we get the same amount of sleep more or less then, right?
Yeah, I think it's just time shifted backwards or forwards.
Yeah, the idea of like waking up super early is not for everyone, man.
No.
Yeah.
It's like
the quality of your sleep is the
like
thing
to
that matters.
follow rules. I want to talk about following rules in a sec. I got to run to the bathroom. But
yeah.
I want to talk about following rules blindly in a sec.
Do it.
But the gist of it is people should not blindly follow any productivity rules ever. Cuz like it's so first of all like it's so like boxy and square and it's like budgeting, right? It's like, oh, like I read in a book to do this or this person does that, so I'm going to do that. But it's like if it works for you organically, you should try it. If it works, then you do it. If it's pulling teeth, you shouldn't do it.
So right before that, we were talking about energy and context switching and how you context switch throughout the day. And you start off on this rant about like, and it was like not even a rant.
Motivational speech.
Motivational stream of consciousness about why you shouldn't follow productivity rules.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting because when you think back to our first guest, George Khalife, right? Shout out to George. George was very much about like, a very structured approach to life and there are rules to this, but you're saying something that's a little bit opposed to that or very much opposed to that.
So I would say this. I think you need to figure out your structure yourself. So you shouldn't follow other. So me and you talking about Dorsey for it's a good example, right? Like we tried it and it worked for us. But if it doesn't work for somebody else, that's fine. right? Like routines are really good, rituals are really good, but if you follow everything to the T, you're not going to open yourself up for like these other really interesting things to happen. And secondly, like it's just so boring, right? Like, oh, I schedule Wednesday to be sales day, but I feel like doing this on Tuesday. Ooh, right? Oh, no, I'm not going to do it. Like that's silly. You should do the things you want to do when you want to do it because it's so much easier and you save your willpower for all these other things that are harder to do later on in the day. And like the other thing is, frankly, I'm not very good with my science on this yet, but I do want to dig into it more. I really think that there's some element of like when you do that, you're just letting self one take over, right? And so I'll go into this for a sec. Self one and self two. Everybody has two selves, right? There's this theory. Thinking fast and slow is one manifestation of this theory. The inner game of tennis is another manifestation of this theory. But basically, there's like the rational, conscious, deliberate self, right? Self one, we'll call them. And then there's like the emotional, intuitive self two, right? And how this manifests itself is basically we always let self one, we believe in self one. Western society, Eastern society, modern society, we believe in self one, which is like, hey, let's talk it out. Let's let reason do all of the things and stuff like that, right? Let's plan this out before we do it. And it's really good to a certain degree. But when it's like tennis, right? Like I'm regurgitating this book because I've never done it myself. Play tennis, that is. Table tennis I've played a lot. And it's really true where like if you play any sport, you miss a basketball shot, right? Let's say. And you're just so hard on yourself. You're like, like I could have done that.
Yeah.
Like I always do this. Why? Like, and you're so frustrated. And then the next time you do it, you're like, I'm going to like fix my hand so it's like this. But when you let self one do that, it messes something else up. Or like your hand doesn't even shoot properly because you're so into it. And you completely mess it up, right? And so that's when things like self two are really good at. Self two is really good at these complex things, right? Like us walking and talking on the phone. Imagine if we had to do that manually lifting like our feet everywhere we go. It's hectic. You would never hear what the person was saying.
Exactly. You're so focused on that
But
movement.
because we're letting self two drive, essentially, like walk for us, we can listen to this with self one, right? So similarly, I think you got to let self two do a lot of, like, I think the more stuff you let self two do and the more you trust it with, the more returns you're going to get out of life. Whether that, like, we call it good luck. We call these things that we can't see and we don't know why we did it. We call it good luck. But in reality, we had a reason we wanted to do it. We just can't articulate it and it's not rational.
You essentially invested in some skills and you did some things that you later benefited from.
That might be one way. I've meant it more as like a day-to-day schedule thing. Like it's like, oh, like I really think today I should do this, right? And sometimes it's just on a whim, right? So sure, like you should have some set routines. So I still have routines, like morning, afternoon.
But you're flexible,
right?
like you allow yourself to change.
Because in the morning I'm like, oh, like I don't have any deadlines I need to meet, and like I'm like I worked really hard last night or whatever, right? So let's like try to do this, right? And it might still be work for somebody, but at least it's like work I was curious about, right?
See, that's scary, and I love that you can do that. For me, I know that if I don't have those routines in place, then I can easily slip into a state of disrepair, and I can easily become lazy and off my game, right? I've been sick for the last couple of days over here, and I've actually enjoyed not going to the gym. I've enjoyed having a weird sleeping schedule, playing video games. I watched Us the other night, but do you watch Us, by the way? We'll talk about this after, man.
Yeah, I don't think so, at least.
Okay, I got chills thinking about it. But, you know, I spent all night just going on Reddit, reading all of these interpretations of the movie, sketching out the linear path of the movie and all that.
Right.
But I had a great time. Now I know if I keep this up, if I keep up this lifestyle, everything's going to fall by the wayside. So I have to now force myself tomorrow, no matter what, to wake up and go to the gym. Because if I don't, I'm just one hairline fracture away from a total, disillusion of self.
Well...
The self one and self two will just give way to self three, which is just
in reality, it might be like a week of wasted time.
Perhaps.
Which does throw other things in disrepair. But like, I would not believe you if you told me like that's the end of the world, right? Like it's like, Yeah, but if you did it, sure, the week is, sure, let's say, a tangible waste of time, right? You missed your speaking gigs, you hurt some relationships and stuff like that.
Sure.
But like if you were writing a book and you were doing all these speaking gigs in the amidst all this stuff, and you were just on a run for the book, like you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how.
Flow.
Each day I can only do 10 pages. Today I can do 50, and then yesterday I did another 50. Like, I have speaking gigs tomorrow. Do I interrupt the speaking? Should I cancel it or not?
Yeah.
Right? And like most people be like, hell no. But like, depending on the bag.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I would say there's an argument to be made for you canceling it, because it's like, dude, like this could save you like 5 days worth of work, 10 days worth of work, 15 days worth of work. You don't even know if you can get this back, and you don't know when this ends. So don't take it for granted.
You find yourself in a real state of flow sometimes. And when you're in that state, just ride it out. Like, I use the Pomodoro technique, so I use the 25-minute chunks.
Yeah, I do
sometimes
20,
at the end of a 25-minute chunk, I'm like, hey, man, I don't want to take this break. I want to push through it.
Yeah.
Like, let's stack another 25 on this.
Yeah. So I take the break always just to rest my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm such an old person thing to say. I look away for a minute, but I always just look out the window. I don't look at anything else, right? And then I get back into it, and it's like, I find it helps. Like, it's like, it's almost like I got a breath of fresh air, and now I didn't really do anything. I just counted up to 60. I can like go back in, and I'm like, I'm fresh.
Well, let's take this back. This is a perfect way to end this segment of the podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about attention, right? So your work necessitates looking at one particular thing and just giving it a creative push, and looking at something with a critical eye and really focusing on whatever it is. So let's say there's a writing project. You're putting together a white paper, or you're putting together some standard operating procedures for your team or whatnot. Yeah. How do you sustain your focus on one task?
Yeah, so every day I wake up and I write down like the 3 most important things I got to do.
3, okay.
And that doesn't mean I write it down. Sometimes I'm picking from a list already. Most times I am. And it doesn't really matter if I get them all done, although some people would argue that it does. For me, I'm like, like the most important thing is that I have the direction, and that like when I'm distracted, I can like go back into the doc, and it's like, oh, it's I'm not done this yet. And if I don't know where to start, I just start from the top. So it's like you can direct yourself, right? And then the 3 things aren't necessarily like they're the most important, but they're not the longest. So like, transcribing a document. Well, I probably wouldn't do that, but if it were there, like, it's a pretty hard thing to do. It's a pretty long thing to do, but it's not the hardest thing to do. You could do that like eating lunch.
Sure. Listen to music, watch Game of Thrones.
But like you could do that So, I would pick like sending a hard email, which takes 20 minutes to write, maybe, or an hour to write, but like takes like the emotional so it's so scary to send it.
Yeah.
I would put that on the list. And I would say that's more important than transcribing something else. So it's like, there's this article called like a to-do list by emotion or something on Medium somewhere. And what I got out of it, which is probably not exactly what the article's about, but was like, hey, you can categorize stuff based on like how scared you are of doing it and like how important it is and stuff like that. And then you just, you like rank it based on that. So that's how.
Like was that eat the frog mentality, which is like first thing in the morning, your first task should be the most difficult, whatever that is, right?
Some days, and then some other days I'm like, oh, I feel like doing this first. So okay, I'll do that first.
Sometimes I use like answering my emails as a warm up to doing actual tasks. Yeah. Like sometimes I'll come back after like a lunch break and be like, okay, I need to get back into the flow of things. What is like a low priority task?
Yeah,
let's just purge the
momentum,
inbox.
Right? Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
man.
I'm not great with email because there's just so much of it that comes in.
Yeah,
and I'm probably a jerk for this, or people think I'm a jerk for this, but it's like, I like box email time like really tight. Same. And I spend most of it sending out like outreach emails or like whatever, right? So like proactive emails, not really reacting to other people. The consequence of that is like, oh, a lot of stuff gets not responded to. So, but if you follow up with me 2 or 3 times, I'll get to it.
For sure.
I'm like, oh, like
it's a priority. It's bumped up.
I didn't, But and that's the attitude I take with a lot of people as well, right? If I'm busy following up with a lot of people, I'm busy like trying to move things forward, to send this out, send that out.
I'm pretty good at also now sending closed emails, which is like I never ask questions in emails. It'll never be like, hey, when's a good time for you to meet? It's like, hey, these are 3 times that I'm free. Pick one. If this doesn't work for you, then let me know of another time. I'll move my schedule around. Like every email is definitive. There's no need to respond to
multiple choice it.
Exactly that. Multiple choice emails, man. Boom. I feel like I've gotten a little bit of a better glimpse into how it is that you structure your time, energy, and attention. I'm sure we're going to have multiple conversations about this over time. Like, this is not the first and last time we're going to be on this podcast. There's going to be many more Kanye albums to come, and many more conversations to have.
Dear reader.
Dear reader. With that being said, man, let's transition into the last round over here, the rapid fire round. So I have 10 hand-picked questions for you.
Okay.
The trick is you got to answer with the first thing that comes to mind. You ready for it, Mr. Lui? Boom. Okay. Rapid fire question number 1. What's the last book you read?
The Man Who Loved China.
By?
Simon Winchester.
Oh, interesting. What made you pick that one up?
It's about this British physicist, Joseph Needham. Oh, I don't know if he was a physicist or not. He was a scientist who studied at Cambridge. And during the Second World War, he got a chance to go to China, and he went and he like uncovered a lot of interesting artifacts and like relationships and scholastic achievements that like the ancient Chinese kingdom had done. I just realized that's not the last book I read, but that's
what was the last book you read?
The last book I read was this fiction book called The Legends of the Condor Heroes, and it's so good. It's like this guy Jin Young. I don't only read books featuring China.
There's like a pattern here.
Recently, I've just been going on China.
No, go for it, bro.
But they call him like the Chinese or they call this series of books the Chinese Lord of the Rings, and it's like so good.
Wow, Legends of the Condor.
Modern translations are like fire.
Yo, man, Jack Ma, get Alibaba to sponsor that, man. Turn that into a movie, man.
I wish.
Could turn into a movie series.
So the problem is they're translating one a year. And like, I just realized I just read the recent one that was like done every Chinese New Year. So it was just done recently. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to wait another year to do this. So,
right on.
Something to look forward to.
Very interesting. Number 2, what's the one and only text you would send to Kanye? If you had
one text message?
If you had in your life, you have one text that he's going to read. What would be in that text?
Oh, just thank you.
That's it. Just thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for like all your work.
I'd probably say the same. Yeah. Very good. Who is a mentor that changed your life?
Ray O'Kane.
Who's that?
Raymond O'Kane.
Raymond O'Kane.
He's, how would one describe Ray? He's like, he's this guy who moved from Ireland to Canada like a couple of decades ago, and he worked at the bank for a really long time. He worked at BMO for a really long time, and then he recently he invested in a bunch of companies, and now he's like essentially like a senior advisor. I think he might. I'm sorry, Ray. I don't know your formal job title over at Moto Insight, but he's helping lead Moto Insight right now.
And then he just like gave you a lot of game.
Yeah, we kick it. Like I met him through. Do you know Impact?
Impact Theory.
No.
Tom
there's this like entrepreneurship group, when I was in college called Impact.
Don't remember that.
So I think I met Ray through Impact. It was like doing a magazine for Impact at the time. And we chatted, and then we had a bunch of mutual friends, and so we just kept in touch, and then gradually we started talking business. He would advise me on like career decisions, sort of things.
Look at that! No ID, my mentor. Let my story begin. Way to go, man!
Ray O'Kane,
Ray O'Kane.
Let the story begin.
Boom.
Yeah.
What's the most important soft skill someone can develop? Communication. What's the most important thing you have in your wallet right now? Or the most interesting thing, sorry.
Let me have a look. Yo, what?
You got a padded wallet too, man. Holy.
It's a big wallet.
Shout out to Zipcar, eh?
Yeah, maybe the rec room.
You have a rec room card in there, right?
Yeah, a rec room
How
card.
many points you got in there?
Not a lot left, no. There's some more personal items in there as well.
And your plastic game is at an all-time high.
Maybe this Tim
Holy.
Hortons rewards card.
Hey.
Really good. Sorry, I dawdled on that question.
No, that's fine. The most interesting you have in there is just a lot of plastic.
Yeah, a lot of plastic.
And the Rec Room, man.
Yeah.
I went to Dave & Buster's recently. I had a hell of a time there, man.
It's
Holy
an
shit.
underrated
It
place
really is, man. Except the Jurassic Park VR was down. I was bummed about that.
Yo, I can't do VR, man. I get
Really?
slow motion sick.
Damn. Quack, weren't you at a VR place recently? We gotta talk.
Yeah, I coordinate VR. I produce VR videos. Yeah.
Oh, shit, man.
Wow, cool. Yeah.
25% in like 10 different things, man.
There
Here we go, man.
There we go.
What is your favorite childhood TV show?
Smart guy.
Smart guy. Why is Herbert Lui sometimes misunderstood?
I don't know what I'm misunderstood about. If people misunderstand me.
I don't think they do.
You know what? Here's the thing. Here's something that'll shock everyone. No, actually, I was going to say, like, I have not listened to Kanye West in a while. Yeah. People are like, oh, he only listens to Kanye West. It's like,
yeah.
I listen to other things too, but Kanye just happens to be
Yeah, it's been a
the
hot minute
best
for me
musician of all time. So why would I choose not to listen to him? But
And on
it's
that
been a
note,
while.
what's the best thing about being Herbert Lui?
Oh, where do I start?
I am a god.
What's the best thing about being me? I don't have that much bullshit in my life that I have to deal with. And that's like an active effort. You know what? That might be the misunderstood thing too.
That you're
is
too
if
zen.
I appreciate that. I think I'm a little wild sometimes, but I would say like I don't do that many things like outside of the things I want to do, and like if I don't feel like doing something, I just won't do it. So it's like, oh, like missed birthday party or whatever, right? It's like, yo, it's not that I don't like you. It's just that like I had nothing I wanted to do, or like I didn't really want to go get drunk that night.
Yeah, fair enough, man.
So there's like stuff like that. And so I'm incredibly selfish with my time.
As you should be.
Probably.
As you should be, though.
And I try to protect it as aggressively as possible.
Because there's no shortage of forces out there that are trying to take your time away from you,
Yeah,
man.
and you need time for yourself, and you need time to explore. Like, you need time for luck. Like, the best things that have happened to me sometimes, like,
time for luck.
are not, like, I didn't even conceive of it happening. And it's just you allow it to happen. That's my theory on some things now. It's like, you don't make it happen, you allow it to happen.
There is something to that, right?
Yeah.
Like time for luck, I call it time for being bored. So back when we were writing for 99U,
exactly.
a lot of what Scott Belsky wrote about, I keep on getting it wrong, Belsky, I don't remember, Belsky.
Yeah.
A lot of what I was thinking about towards the end of my time writing for them was intentional boredom, like actually getting bored, doing nothing, so that you can have those moments of serendipity where you're like, I noticed two things that I've never noticed before.
Right. And an extension of that is like clear time in your calendar. You block it off so that people
don't book
whatever.
you in, but you know it's your time.
Yeah, or you block it off so you know that you know that you had something like important to do, and that important thing was nothing.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's like, I want to check out these stores. I want to have time to do that. I never have time to do this, you say, right?
Yeah.
But it's only because you didn't make it.
You didn't make it.
And so like it's like reclaiming a lot of that time. Like I know friends who go out for dinner every night with other friends and they have other plans. And I'm like, I used to be like pretty extreme on that end too. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you get anything else done?
Yeah. They've made that a priority for themselves.
And meanwhile,
right?
I didn't get like my resume and I'm trying to get a new job. I don't have time to do that. It's like, well, but you don't want I would probably be the type to point that out, but it's like, that's not a very nice thing to point out to people.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
Second last question. If you're flicking through the channels and you see this movie on TV.
Rush Hour 2.
That's the one you're going to watch no matter what.
Yeah.
Rush Hour 2. Okay.
Yeah.
I love how you knew the question even before I finished it.
Well, because it's happened 30 times.
I think for me it's Goodfellas, man.
Yo,
Goodfellas,
I've never seen Goodfellas on cable before.
It sometimes comes on like these obscure channel 455 or some shit,
well,
you know?
You've been scrolling. I just do Rush Hour on TBS a long time ago.
Rush Hour is a classic. I need to
Rush
go
Hour
back
2.
to it. And they're making another one too right now, right? Rush Hour 4 is coming
I
out.
hope they don't mess it up.
let's
Rush Hour
see.
3 is like a blow to the franchise.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah, it's like it does not exist.
No,
to me.
it's not canon. Last question, man. You have bestowed us with so many gems over here. You've given us such great advice, but what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received, Herbert?
I don't know that there was. You know what? Oh, there's so many now. You're right, because you can't think of it. But the problem is the first answer you get might not be the best answer.
You know what? Give us one and let's just keep exploring this, man.
I like that. You know what? That might be one. It's like my friend Roble, who works at Shopify.
Roble Jama. Shout out to Roble. Yeah. Tiny Hearts.
You know Roble, yeah. So at the time he was doing Tiny Hearts, and he had this phrase that we came up with, or we stole, I can't remember, for a blog post called Think With Your Hands. I think that's a really, really important idea. We don't do all the thinking with our brains. We do like you can't just live from the neck up, right? Like you gotta, like, you have a body, you have hands, and like you can walk around, or like, you know, you have all these other things you can do, right? So like, why not go do them instead of like trying to solve something in your head, or like trying to like get, like, if you're stuck in there, staying in there doesn't get you out. And I think that's like a thing, is like you might not know the answer right now, and you might not like have like a super, super clear vision, but even a slow hunch, or even just knowing whether you like something or not, is already like good enough.
Boom. Herbert Lui, man. We did it. This is the longest episode we've ever done. This is
Thanks,
nearly
dude.
2 hours, man.
Thanks. I feel like most of it was Kanye talk.
But you know what? I'm happy we did it. We're not going to cut it. We're just going to give the audience a heads up that if you want to get to the good stuff as far as productivity is concerned, skip to the halfway mark. But
I love how we say it at the end too. It's like, yeah, so we said it throughout. We said it throughout.
But like, if you're a fan of hip hop, but also if you want to get deeper insights into like how Hamza became Hamza, how Herbert became Herbert, right? And even if you've been listening to Kwaku like chime in there, like Kanye has influenced more people than you care to admit.
Yeah. You know what's really good about that is I like the way you used, like, the gift is an artifact, right?
Yeah.
It's like this thing, and then it helps kick off the conversation. Like Nardwar does it. I think like telling our stories through this stuff is also very interesting.
But we got nerded out. We nerded out. We got carried away for sure.
Yeah, we geeked out pretty hard.
I'm glad that we did
listening
though,
to this will love it. You know what? There's these podcasts called like Watching the Throne and like
really
stuff like that.
How have I missed this?
Oh man, there was one called I forget.
It has to be, right?
This one where this guy dissects My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Dissect. That's what it's called. It's so good. And I think he ended up getting sponsored by Spotify.
Dissect, done.
Crazy podcast. But anyway, we're more like Watching the Throne, where it's two guys like geeking out.
I'm gonna have to check it out, man.
Like they invite random like Kanye fans on. I hope to get invited one day.
Dude, man, you know what? It's so funny.
If I do, you'll get invited too.
When I was putting together the concept for this, like I was thinking about like who would be the perfect co-host for this, and your name kept on coming up time and again. I'm like, it's gonna be impossible for us to line up our schedules and coordinate this. But dude, if there's ever an opportunity in the future for us to just the two of us sit over here, kick it, bring on a third guest, and then we both kind of Watch the Throne tag team on that guest, I think we'd have a great time, man.
Yeah, I think
too,
dude.
We're a couple of degrees of separation away from Kanye. I think you've met Virgil before.
No,
hold
that
on.
is a reach, yo. We were like indoors length of each other one time, where he didn't even hold the door, like he like backhand like was like, oh, someone's coming in behind me.
No,
I'll just like let him in.
Okay, so maybe 2 degrees of separation, because you name dropped casually right before this. Post Malone did an interview with him a while back.
Oh.
You've worked with Ryan Leslie extensively as well.
Yeah.
So you know somebody who has Kanye's phone number? Just saying.
Yeah. There's like Kanye's email is like floating out there on the internet.
Actually.
Yeah. But I can never, to your point about the text, it's like I can never think of what I would say other than thank you. I can't be like, come work with me on a book. Like,
no.
It's like I'm a little far off from that still.
I don't even think that could be an interview. We just have to give him the mic and be like, so Kanye, what do you want to say? And then just sit back and just.
Or like throw keywords at him so that he just like.
That's it.
Prompts, right? It's prompts. Yeah.
Brother, on that final note over here, any other projects you have, any initiatives coming up, any place that you want people to check out?
No, not really. I would say like a lot of my writing we talked about earlier is floating online, so you can see that on Medium.
And your website as well?
My website as well.
The URL is?
The URL is Herbert, HERBERT, Lui, LUI.net. Sign up for my mailing list.
Yep.
I got some book suggestions and stuff, but I'm working on something that's different from that. I feel like Ryan Holiday's reading recommendations are so good, and I'm like, I want to make something like that. But it's like you gotta do you. So you like right now I'm parodying Ryan's thing,
Not
And
parodying, like you're
parodying. Oh, well, like I took
Emulating
the
it,
concept
yeah.
and emulated it. But now I want to be like, oh, cool. Like, let's start from somewhere even further back. Like, is it like just quotes? Is it like a different angle? Is it bringing someone in every, like, kind of like you, like every month? It's like different person. So thinking about other ways of like uniting people who really like books, and also of expressing my own reading recommendations and stuff like that.
boom. And where can people follow your adventures online? What kind of social media
I
can they
don't
follow
do
you on?
social that much.
Yeah, you kind of fallen back a little bit. Yeah.
That time.
But where might you drop the next update on Herbert's life?
My mailing list.
All right.
Or
So
maybe
mailing
Twitter.
list it is.
Twitter.
And Twitter.
Twitter
Okay.
is close. Twitter is close.
And you're Fresh Herbs on Twitter.
No, I'm Fresh Herbs on Insta,
On
but I
Insta.
don't really use it. So I'm Herbert Lui on Twitter.
Last question. Why is the intentional choice to pull back from social? I don't hate the decision.
yeah,
I'm actually secretly in support of it. But
Yeah.
what made you
So
choose?
it goes back to what I said about no BS, right? It's like it started a while back when I was I was like really frustrated one day, and like I procrastinated, and like procrastination just feels like so garbage, right? It's like you ate a bunch of junk food,
Yeah.
right? And it was because of Facebook. And so I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to create this really simple rule. I don't check Facebook until 6. That's it. I don't log in until 6. And so throughout the years, that's evolved. I don't even check Facebook that much anymore. When I do, I have this plugin on Chrome called Kill Newsfeed. And so it just kills the newsfeed. It's just blank. You only see the
What?
sidebars. You see the birthdays, you see events, you see like your apps and stuff. And then I use Messenger a lot more, though.
So you have to
they
actively
got me.
seek people out?
Yeah, it's very much a pull. Right. So here's the thing. I choose to pull a lot, and I don't get any push. Like, I try to opt out of as much push as possible.
I love it.
So, like, on my phone, like you'll see here, like on my phone, like it's like I have like 5 icons on here. Right?
Amazing.
5.
That's the way to do it.
I don't want to get hacked. But
Dude, I've gotten 0 notifications. I don't, 0 notifications on anything right now. I don't get notifications on my email either.
that's what I'm
It's
saying.
an active push. It's like,
Yeah.
I have to seek this out.
Yeah.
It's not
And
going to
then-
tell me when to check it.
Right. And then with apps, you just type it in the search bar.
Yeah.
You're just right. So.
And there's a period of like compulsion where you're like, what's happening on Instagram? What's happening on Twitter?
Yeah.
But that goes away after like 30 days or 60 days.
Yeah.
Way to go, man.
Yeah.
I like that hard and fast rule. Do you do that for all social media now? Just Facebook?
Everything. I try to do
Facebook,
that.
Twitter,
for
Instagram.
WhatsApp is the only thing that I get like buzzed on.
Here's the shitty thing about that. So I tried a very hard and fast rule like that, and it directly impacted the business. Like when I started posting actively on Instagram,
Right.
the leads started to drop, and I'm
Right.
like, oh.
So you know what? That actually makes perfect sense because I don't get that many inbound leads, and I'm like, oh, like why do I not get inbound leads? But
'Cause you're
to
not where the people are.
Right.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's like the most recent ones I got was after posting this like this article series on Slack, on Medium, and I felt really proud of doing that because like I got a little bit better at what I do. But people actually were like, this is crazy. And then not people I knew, but randoms would email me. Not randoms. That sounds kind of
No,
weird.
that's
Random
fine. People out of the
on
blue,
the
yeah.
internet who don't know me would email me and be like, hey, can you consult? Can we do business together? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the thing. Like, so there is a happy medium between all this stuff.
For sure.
I haven't found my medium. Like, I'm not really good with photos. I also, like, I can get so sucked into LinkedIn and Insta that I try not. LinkedIn is getting me right now. I always
Right.
log out. Reddit is getting me.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know what, brother? I mean, let's end on this note over here. These are all just things that are coming and going, man. They're gimmicks. They're other communication channels. The beauty is that you found the business model that is scalable, repeatable, and you've done it for 5 years, and you've made a full-time living. Man, I'm sure the next time we meet, there's going to be another milestone that you're going to hit. No
I
doubt
hope.
about that, man.
But that's okay too if there isn't, right? It's just like you go at your own pace. To your point, it didn't always start out like that, and we're like getting there, repeatable, getting there, right? And it took 5 years. So the other thing is like if it doesn't happen like in a year, like that's okay.
That's okay. Perfectly. I'm sure you've had some moments in the business where you've been like, this is it. Let's pack it up.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
But you stuck through it, man. You
Yeah.
persisted. Now here you are, man.
Yeah.
Fresh Herbs, Herbert Lui, man. We did it. Thank you, brother. This
Thank
has
you for
been an
having
absolute
me.
pleasure.
This is a lot of fun.
We're going to do this again.
I hope
Listeners, fans, community, everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Really, really appreciate this. We'll see you again next week. We're out.